วัสดีค่ะ Good morning. How are you? Great, right? Welcome to our last day over here, and here we are with our Cosmoprof CBE ASEAN 2024. And of course, you're still here with me. My name is Tasmadamna, but that's too long. Just call me beautiful lady. That's the same, okay? So we are going to start our Cosmotalk in the first section, but let me introduce every one of you in case that some of you are a newcomer to our event. This is our last day. We are here until 6 p.m. today, so you have a long day to stay together with us. So I would like to say that thank you so much for the host of this year as always. There are the great cooperation between the three companies, three offices, which are first one, Bologna Fiere Group, the organizer of the Cosmoprof exhibition. The second one is Informa Markets, and the third one is CBE or China Beauty Expo. And the aim of our event every year is that to stimulate, to provide a new business opportunity to every one of you and to give the inspiration to the beauty sector in Southeast Asia region over here. So now it's time for our first session of Cosmotalk. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say thank you so much for Singapore CTFAS for moderating this section. This is Cosmetic Toiletry and Fragrance Associations of Singapore. So our first topic is called Leveraging AI and Smart Technology for the Beauty Industry. So please join me in welcoming the moderator, Mr. Ek Lim, Honorary Treasurer, Cosmetic Toiletry and Fragrance Associations of Singapore.
Okay, very good morning, everyone. My name is Ek. I represent the Cosmetic Association of Singapore, but my day job is actually with Meiyume, a B2B sourcing company and an OEM ODM company. So today we have a distinguished panel of speakers who I will now invite on stage. And we'll dive a bit deeper into this topic of artificial intelligence as well as smart technologies applied to the perspective of the beauty industry. Okay? So, first off, we have Robert Brockman. Rob is VP Marketing Intelligence at Meiyume. And then we also invite on stage Kin Shen Chan, Principal Analyst, Beauty and Personal Care at Mintel. And then finally, Donna Aditya, Regional Director for Shop Operations at TikTok. Welcome, gentlemen. So, the topic today is actually on AI and smart technologies. So naturally, I used ChatGPT to draft the questions for today. And then my panelists also used ChatGPT to create the answers. So for the next 45 minutes, you'll hear all the AI prepared questions and answers on the topic of AI and smart technologies, okay? So looking forward to it. Now, right, let's kick things off with some definitions. So maybe I'll pose the first question to Donald in terms of the term artificial intelligence. Yeah, let's unpack it a little bit and let's have it make sense for everyone in the room here. What does it mean for you, and what should it mean for people in the cosmetic industry?
Thank you, Ek. Just for inclusivity, right? I did not use ChatGPT. I used Gemini and Perplexity, right? We're not for one company. On serious note, AI itself is a very big question. A lot of people has been mentioning what's AI, artificial intelligence. To break it down, right? Even for when I think about it, AI is a very broad field where the goal is to create a system where they can learn, reason, and behave like human. Very broad, very, very vague. And then the second part, there's machine learning, which is the subset of AI, right? The difference is that machine learning is able to automatically by themselves optimize, right? their own algorithm, learn from data without being explicitly programmed. The last part is actually deep learning, right? Another subset of machine learning. So if you see it as a 3-step process, it's actually where a system just find patterns, right? Find patterns and features and just make sense of it. And then your question most probably will be, all our generative AI, where are they? They're actually in between the machine learning and deep learning, right? Unfortunately, we're not there yet. We have actual artificial intelligence that behave like us, but we're heading there.
Okay, I think for today's panel, I like the way we set up the panel because we have representatives from different parts of the value chain for the beauty industry. Yeah, channels, platforms, further upstream in terms of suppliers, and also Kinshan representing markets and consumers. So maybe I'll pose my next question to both Kinshan and Rob. In that, based on Donald's definition, is there anything that you would differ from? And also, how would you apply AI technology into your businesses, actually? Maybe start with Kinshan.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I often like to think of AI in a bit of a more layman terms. I mean, often when I look into AI, I think of it like a mentor-mentee relationship. I mean, when I started my career, say, 12 years ago, I have a group of wonderful mentors who really helped me to understand information. I bounce them off ideas, and it basically grew my knowledge base. Nowadays, that's what AI is for you. I mean, generative AI, you basically ask them questions, and they're able to get you responses, and you're able to basically formulate your hypothesis or some of the answers that you are looking for. When I bring them back to the business, so I'm from Mintel. Mintel is a market intelligence company. We have also recently launched Leap. So Leap is actually a closed loop AI system. So you can think of it like, instead of actually having to browse through, say, different trends, you can just ask Leap, what is the next trending sun care ingredient? And they would be able to tell you different trending ingredients for, say, niacinamide, glycerine with sauces. And I think that's really what's changing the market research industry. I think it's an exciting space to even include some of Mintel's GMPD products in future. So I think that's an exciting space to watch out. Rob?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So from a supplier and a partner perspective, it's sort of our duty to our customers to understand, obviously what are the latest trends, and we work with companies like Mintel to do that. But we also need to understand from a consumer standpoint, what are consumers saying in terms of their wants and needs for products? Can we look at products that are already on the market? Maybe if we're doing a new product development, we look at a benchmark product, and we want to understand how do consumers respond to this product? Do they have comments around the formulations, texture or smell, or any comments around packaging? So we actually built an application called the Beauty Intelligence Platform. We use this, it's an LLM, AI, and we use this to understand the sort of nuances of the consumer reviews online for different products. So we take this information and we leverage it during our own NPD process, but also when we work with our customers, we use this data to kind of inform what directions should we be guiding our customers in terms of product development.
Okay, if you're interested to find out more, please visit the Meiyume booth at M40 in Hall 3. Right, with that, let's dive in a bit deeper into the branch of artificial intelligence, shall we? So among the different branches, actually, Donald mentioned deep learning, and I think it's been singled out as having significant impact in recent times, especially with the creation of foundation models that drive more layered insights by the analysis of large data, unstructured data sets. Now, with regards to deep learning, I want to ask all three panelists, do you see any interesting applications or interesting use cases from where you sit? Is there anything you can share more with the audience about? Donald?
Sure. I'll bring it from the social media platform, right? I think all of us use social media, TikTok, Meta, which is Instagram, Facebook, and various different stuff, right? I think what interests the industry, or even us being part of the platform, is the user journey amplification, right? Which means how can we make the user enjoy the platform better and actually derive more value from them, right? Tricky example, first one is personalization. I think we know those insights throughout like the past 2 decades, but I think with the idea of AI right now, machine learning, deep learning, the idea of getting a user behavior and giving relevant content to people are all another level right now. Because sometimes even you don't know what you don't know, right? But based on your behavior, the platform is actually sharing you things that may be interesting for you, right? And I think that personalization has really enriched people experience throughout the platform, which I feel then really opens up the opportunity for example, beauty brand to create compelling content, right? Second part is things that you guys are using, whether it's iPhone Siri, whether it's a messaging app, right? If you realize now the chatbot are getting more exciting in a way, right? They actually respond and they actually engage with you. And sometimes we might forget that it's actually a bot, right? It's not actually like human being. But I think that's really the proliferation and a very small tweak the past like 1-2 years, where chatbot used to be a predetermined answer based on the question that the person behind it are thinking about. But now they can actually adapt more and sometimes even learn from your input, right? Based on the type of response that you give. For example, if you ask what kind of a lipstick color you have, they might even ask back, what is the skin color, right? Is it like for summer? Is it for like fall? And I think Facebook messaging, for example, are doing this very well. At ByteDance, we also have that as part of our e-com, right? So I think that's very, very exciting. The last part is actually content generation. I think we are in the age of content. So I think creating content is not for everyone, to be honest. That's why we have creators, we have agencies. But I think AI right now really bridging the barrier of entry of creating content. They actually save everyone so much time on how to create content. And I think there will be an opportunity for beauty to even improve the type of content they bring to the market, at which then the engagement between brand and the user are even much more authentic, right?
Okay. Kinchan, how about you? From within the beauty and personal care space, have you seen any interesting applications?
Yeah, I think Donna earlier mentioned content creation and bridging the gap. I think from a beauty space, I recently came across an example, Potion AI. So prior to my life at Mintel, I spent 8 years as an R&D in P&G. And back then I remembered when I first started, like when we want to do formulation, you always have to look through formula cards. You need to do design of experiments. You need to play around, trial and error. What Potion AI does is actually you're able to basically put into the prompt, I want a hydration formula with niacinamide and say maybe hyaluronic acid. They are able to come up with all the different inky leaves. What are the possible formulations you can go with? So I think it provides really much more convenience and I think simplicity in terms of how we go about such, formulation from an R&D perspective. I think earlier we talked about leap in understanding trends from Mintel. So I think it's just a very, I would say, simplified and direct way of understanding questions and getting to your responses faster. So you're able to spend more time doing more, I think, value-added tasks in that example. So, yeah.
You mentioned about formulations and inculus. I think we are going further upstream into the value chain. And in terms of the supply chain, some people estimate that if you apply artificial intelligence into supply chain optimization, it could save about, 40 to 60% of costs. Rob, in terms of supply chain optimization, have you seen any examples that you could share with the audience actually?
I was talking to head of demand planning for an MNC beauty brand in Singapore, and we were sort of discussing how AI could be leveraged in demand planning, and the KPI that this person is measured on is aged inventory, and specifically, he mentioned that for their brand, I think the NPD launches was like 40% had high levels of aged inventory. So how can he better understand why NPDs are failing? And they see the sellout data. They know that the NPD is not working, but they don't know why. They don't know what specifically is causing this NPD not to work. Is it that the consumer doesn't feel the claims met their expectations, or there's some issue with the formula? So again, just being able to do like deep learning AI on consumer sentiment, you can add some context into your brand's sales performance, and you can almost feed that into your demand planning algorithms.
Okay. I think for the panel today, there's so much to cover. We won't go too deep into each topic, but I think we give you a glimpse of the different parts of the value chain and the different applications we see. Yeah. In terms of the further research and studies, I invite you to reach out to the speakers after the panel also for more discussions. Maybe get the name cards, and you could take this beyond just Cosmotalk and Cosmoprof. Okay. All right. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence, but I think it's just one type of technology that the beauty industry has been using to connect with consumers, to optimize their warehouse planning, their demand planning. And there are also other digital technologies and smart technologies that industry players have been implementing from the earlier days. So from this angle, maybe I'll start off with Kinshin. Non-AI, yeah. Are there any other interesting technologies that you've seen also applied to cosmetics?
Great question. I mean, if I were to think about it from a beauty perspective, at least I think for the past 2 to 3 years, I think smart mirrors are one thing. I think Perfect Core, smart mirrors. You can think of virtual try-ons. We see, I think, MAC Cosmetic, NAS, I think they have this type of different virtual try-ons to really enable consumers to, I would say, breach that shopping experience. So how do you say, if I'm at home, but I want to see how this lipstick shade look on me, can I perhaps have a avatar of myself? I mean, 2 years ago, I think we talked about metaverse. It did not really, I think, or maybe the correct term is it has not really reached maturity yet. I think there's still more steps to go behind that term. And I definitely think personalization is also one thing that beauty companies have yet to crack the code on consumers in that part. I mean, I can provide a bit more, I think, perspective on that. I like to always start with the consumer problem. I think if I were to say, give the analogy, say 10 years ago. So I spent quite a number of times or years in China understanding consumer behavior back then. I remember during my first consumer study in Beijing, back then I was doing prestige research. So we were looking at different consumers and how much they spent skincare products. There was an innate belief that consumers really think that skincare can bring them beautiful skin, or like skincare can actually help to promote like beauty. But I think consumer behavior nowadays has quite a dramatic shift. So I think nowadays, if you want good-looking skin, what do? You go for thermage, out therapy, you go for your aesthetic clinic, and there's that instant gratification component there. I think consumers, and I think the biggest challenge for skincare brands nowadays is how do I bring that value to consumer? Like how do I put it across? And I think bringing it back to, say, using different diagnostics, like earlier I mentioned smart mirrors, the virtual try-ons. I think it's really to include that holistic experience, and how do you enable that? So I think that will be something for brands to continuously work on in that space.
And you mentioned skin analysis, right? I mean, that's an area that I think you could cross-fertilize very well with artificial intelligence also, right? Because traditionally it has not been powered by large data sets. Analysis, right? It's more scientific in nature, more technological in nature, but then there's always the chance to use consumer data or even from social media platforms, to derive better insights that are market specific. Yeah. And I'm reminded of the fact also that look, generative AI has gotten a lot of attention in recent times. Big part of it is language text driven, but for our industry, that's not the only thing that's important, right? Because the analysis of graphics, images, videos is also important, especially for categories like color makeup, yeah, and also skincare. So from that angle, going back to AI again, Donald, do you think there are any other examples that you can think of?
Sure. I think two things, right? One, before going back to AI, you mentioned metaverse. Actually, that's very, very exciting because I'm not sure how many of you guys seen this. Rihanna still believe that metaverse is here to stay, and Urban Decay is the biggest partner, at which the instant gratification is actually amplified by saying you could be anyone immediately in metaverse, right? So whatever treatment you have, I think you can see it, you can search it, right? The content is that you can create avatar, you can try on various different Urban Decay, and I think rumor has it they will connect with various different brands so that you could be completely a new person immediately, right? Much more reflective than maybe a virtual try-on. But I think then when we go back to AI, right? I think virtual try-on is very static, right? Makeup, sometimes you can try it based on where you are right now, but a lot of time that limited to makeup, right? But I think skincare is very, very exciting, especially where I work, right? A lot of brands are asking, is like, how do we actually create content for skincare? What are we showing? So I think one company, a B2B company called Hot AI, maybe some of you guys have heard of it, it's from Estonia. They actually focuses on creating skin GBT. They launched it like maybe a few months ago, right? And what it does is it takes input from the users, right? It takes your skin type, your pigment, various different, very specified information, and then they will ask you, what product do you want to try, right? And based on that product, they will produce a content, right, an image, a video of yourself being impacted by that specific product. I think that's quite innovative and really will change the game on how products are being delivered to the market. Because now you no longer have to wait maybe 3 months and maybe you say, okay, this brand is not working. But as that gets more prescriptive and very, very accurate, I think then more and more brand can really personalize the experience for each specific users, no matter where they are, right?
And I think what you mentioned is relevant also because I think it gives another dimension for interaction between consumers and data collectors maybe, or industry players. Now, for us in the industry, when it comes to product, formulations are important, yes, but oftentimes in terms of interaction, another important touch point actually is the packaging itself, right? So Rob, from that angle, in terms of smart technologies, AI or non-AI, anything interesting you want to share?
Yeah, so we're seeing brands, beauty brands, start to experiment with smart packaging. So this is a technology that I think probably started with wines and spirits, and it's moved over even into fashion and apparel. The basic premise is that you're taking a small little chip, like this big, could be NFC or RFID, and you're embedding it into the product packaging itself. So when the consumer looks at the packaging, they don't see that there's been any alteration to the packaging, but they can use their mobile device to actually interact with the packaging, and they get a digital experience on their phone. This enables brands to, first they can do supply chain traceability if they have their suppliers throughout the supply chain interacting with these tags. They can record all of the events as the product moves through the supply chain. You can communicate traceability back to the consumer. You can enable experiences like refill ordering. So it brings another connection that you can have with the consumer even after the product's been purchased at the point of sale. So I think this is something that of course, it's dependent on the price points of the product. If it's a mass or masstige, it may not be worth the price, but certainly Lux Packaging is starting to incorporate this type of technology.
Just curious on that, Rob. I'm not sure if you realize on the LVMH, LV perfume. Like in the past, maybe some of you guys seen the LV perfume. They produce it sustainably because you can just refill the inside. Rumor has it they're trying to put the chips on a feedback as well. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think they should. I mean, it just opens up so many different, I guess, possibilities to. Well, first of all, if you're talking about an LV fragrance, there's going to be attempts to counterfeit that. And consumers want to know that when they're purchasing this product and they're spending, upwards of probably 300 US on a single fragrance bottle, that it's authentic. And it's even possible with QR codes to counterfeit. So these smart pack technologies provide that extra layer of protection. Another example, actually within the LVMH family, is the Louis the 13th cognac. So this is the one that's in the Baccarat crystal. It costs several $1,000s. Every single one of those products on the cap has an integrated NFC chip. You register the product with the brand, and it opens up this whole sort of world of Louis the 13th cognac that the consumer can interact with. So I definitely see it catching on.
So I can't be drinking your Louis 13 without you knowing then.
I wish.
I think it all begins with a problem, right? That of traceability, provenance, not just for counterfeiting, but I think in our industry, people also want to trace back the supply chain for other reasons, in terms of supplier credibility. Is the factory legitimate? Are they compliant? And one way to solve the problem, of course, is through simple technology, QR codes. At the simplest level, because all of us after COVID, we are very familiar with QR codes, right? Even my mom. But I think people have also tried to use blockchain actually to solve this problem of supply chain traceability. Have you guys seen anything in this direction that you think might be interesting to know? Because I know blockchain has taken a bit of a backseat now that AI has come to the forefront, right? But in the long term, I still feel that the use case is clear. It's just that it hasn't come to a level of maturity yet. Yeah. So in terms of supply chain traceability, yeah. Anything you've seen in terms of blockchain?
Maybe I can start. I think, at least from a brand perspective or consumer perspective, I always thought ingredient sourcing is one where blockchain has been used. I think consumers are always interested to know, where is this ingredient from? How can I trace it? Is it safe for usage? And we see companies actually actively talking about such. But I think there's still a bit of breach to really educate consumers, and whether do they really care? I think that's also something that brands need to talk about or educate about. And I think especially in Southeast Asia, I always think it's very interesting to dive deeper into the consumer mindset, or like the why, right? So I think I give you an example. So I think we all know consumers love efficacious skincare, right? I think if you go into China or let's say Japan, it's not enough to just talk about, say, niacinamide or retinol. They want to understand things like, okay, you mentioned retinol helps in skin barrier. So what are you showing me proof? But I think, in Southeast Asia, actually, you can just provide that information without so much of that proof, and consumers still attach it on. So I think there is a bit of consumer education on that portion with regards to like ingredient sourcing. I think that's what I would like to add. So yeah.
It's interesting you brought up about whether the consumer cares, right? And truth to be told, I think a lot of focus group will say exactly like what you said. They don't care exactly the problem statement that was being mentioned, whether it's traceability, whether like they know the ingredient. But I think where it's interesting, I wouldn't mention which company. Various different platforms are exploring with brands to use blockchain to ensure very, very transparent SKUs, right? Transparent supply that they have. As you know, like some brands, even all of us here, if we do a business, we will open in multiple platforms. It's not going to be one, right? But you cannot have, for example, 100 products, right, for every single SKUs you have in every single platform. You want to make sure that it's just one distribution channel, right? But it's automated, automatically reflected to the users, right? The type of SKUs that they have. I think that's right now what behind the scenes are really being sharpened, because that actually impacts the user experience. Imagine like you already think about it, you want to spend like $200 on sunscreen, right? Suddenly it's sold out. Or you said you already purchased, and then 2 days later somebody is telling you, it's like, oh, actually it's a supply mismatch, right? I think that's the part that actually we got a lot of feedback that the user expecting from us more than the ingredient itself. And I think the ingredient is where I think platform like us or even Insta, like TikTok and Insta is very content heavy. They connect that product display page with a very relevant content that explains about that ingredients. And I think that holistic journey is actually what really add a lot more value to the users nowadays.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Let's go a different direction because at the consumer end, social media has taken the beauty in a very fast direction, in a very fast speed actually. And things move exponentially. But the further upstream you go into the supply chain, into the value chain, things get more and more analog, right? Because when you make product, you have to buy materials, you formulate, and then you buy materials, and then you manufacture them, and there's a lead time. So if the downstream is digital and the upstream is analog, then there's going to be a mismatch in terms of supply and demand, right? For example, e-commerce, independent brands that maybe something goes viral, but they can't pull the stock fast enough, and things stock out. I think the answer to this probably is also more technology in terms of product lifecycle management. Yeah, allowing the feedback loop from the front end to reach the back end as quickly as possible. Just throwing it out there, but in terms of product lifecycle management or this topic of mismatch in speeds, any solution you can think of or any way the audience, many of whom I think are also brand owners or entrepreneurs, can try to solve the issue and not have a stock out situation, yeah, when sales is too fast but the supply can't keep up.
I think it's what we discussed earlier, the K18, right? K18 is a hair brand, right? Recently got acquired, 20 billion views in TikTok. So they actually utilize that views as part of forecasting model as well. It's a very simplified model, but based on that views, how many conversion they have across platform, then that's where they start stocking up, right? And they also start asking the platform on how fast is that views picking up, right, on a weekly basis. Does it still increase by 1 million every week? Is it actually less? Then number two, I think from the ingredient point of view, then they also get that feedback and put it into machine learning, at which then they patented that, what is that, K18? K18 peptides, right?
Peptide.
Now it's actually like patent on them, which is a synthetic or replacement ingredient that actually produce the exact same impact for the user, but it's actually feedback from the user, right? They just like see it a different way, and somebody comes up with a completely new ingredient, and then they just push it back to the market. I think those are the kind of company I feel like even the biggest brand can learn. Of course, one of the learning is acquiring them, right? But would be interesting to hear from you guys whether that can be amplified for everyone here.
From my perspective, we haven't done it enough yet, to be honest. You know, using maybe even social media matrix to forecast demand. I think something for me and my colleagues in Meiyume to think about, to help our customers forecast more accurately and better. At this point, maybe I'll take a pause, and I would like to actually throw the floor open. If you guys have any questions or anything on your mind, that feel free to just take a mic. Can we get some mics to any members of the audience who want to ask a question? And then One of the panelists will answer your question. If we don't know the answer, we'll feed it into ChatGPT, and then we'll read out the answer to you, okay? But jokes aside, yeah. Except for Luis, but anyone else has any questions that you might want to ask on this topic of artificial intelligence and smart technologies, please feel free. Okay. If not, then I'll kick things off a little bit with a question of my own, actually. We spoke about it during coffee. No, Luis, come on.
Good morning.
Morning.
Question that I have that you kind of mentioned, the metaverse. So the question that I have is, how do you, especially in the beauty industry, as you have seen all these changes, for the past 10 years, you mentioned virtual reality, there's been AR, there's been all sorts of different things. We have now all the social media. But how is that you make the difference between what the metaverse, the hype of the metaverse, and the hype of AI? Because if not, it just becomes, at the end of the day, it's about data. How do you see that there's a sense of reality, whatever the metaverse was supposed to bring, and what's the reality of AI in the sense of data for the, beauty industry? How is that? And the second component of that question, if it's about data, how do you see the concern of the perspective of security of that data? Because you're talking about data of individuals, the skincare, the this, the that. Put it in ChatGPT, everybody will see it and everybody will know every single thing about you. So the hype and the reality of data security, in a sense, in the beauty sector.
I think that's a great question. I mean, it's a bit heavy, but let me break it down into parts. I think on the first question on metaverse being a hype, a bit yes and no. So I think it didn't live up to consumers' expectation, I believe. I think consumers expected that, you go into say a virtual land, you're able to understand your skin condition, but a lot of times I think the execution of it didn't really meet the expectation of it. Although I do want to give an example of a good use case of the metaverse. I'm not sure if I believe it might be the Fashion Week on Decentraland, where Estee Lauder actually had this metaverse of their A&R. So A&R is Estee Lauder's signature product, the Advanced Night Repair. And what was interesting, it's actually you have your avatar, you go inside the A&R, and your avatar face actually lights up or brightens up. And that is actually a subtle product communication signal, right? Because A&R, it's about skin repair, skin brightening. But I think there's definitely more leverages or more potential for metaverse, and that's where I come to your second point on data. I definitely think personalization is something that brands can definitely tap on more. So why do I say that? I think if we look into personalization in the skincare space, if we want to go premium, often personalization is the key. But if you look at personalization technologies right now, often it's stuck in, say, you capture a single image. I pull out a few endpoints, be it your skin parameters like brightening, hydration, and things like that. But if you step back and you think about it, our skin is dynamic. I mean, our skin is influenced by blood flow, your circadian rhythm. How can a single image be good enough to actually tell your current skin condition? So definitely moving forward, I think leveraging AI, we would see more companies looking at video image analysis, which I think the biggest, I would say, challenge of that is how do you remove the signal to noise ratio. So I think with motion artifacts, there is a lot of noise. I think that's going to be challenging. But at the same time, I think that's really how you elevate that personalization experience. And I hope that answers the question. Yeah, I'm not sure if you have anything to add. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think the second part of the question, first on the metaverse on point. Personally, with the discussion in the industry, I think we also have this discussion is that nobody actually defined, right, what's the expectation of metaverse. I think you showcase, most probably that's Jane's idea of using metaverse. but I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I feel that where metaverse is going to be very, very interesting is where you actually have the NPC, right? We call it the non-playable characters, also helping to elevate your experience in that field, right? Whether it's going to be like an offline to online or offline online metaverse back to offline. I think it's for all of us here in this room or even outside to really define that and actually adds more value on how metaverse could be used, whether with machine learning or AI. I think that's number one. Number two, I think to your point about the risks, yes, absolutely. The risk of all the data coming in, I think every single platform, every single brand has to be very conscious on three things, right? One, the transparency of the data coming in, what kind of data they should be taking, and maybe proactively telling the users how it's being used, right? Because sometimes you give consent, but you're actually not clear what is the various permutation that you can get from the data that you're giving, right? And sometimes it's being used for someone else. But the last part I feel is very, very relevant for beauty is that representation, right, and bias. I think we all have like the idea of beauty, right? Every single country, every single market are very, very different. How can we responsibly actually add enough data point, right, and collaboratively expand that idea of representation so that one, not only is very inclusive, right? So there's various different beauty, there's various different impact for everyone, but also number two, we do not shame people, right? It's not like, oh, if you don't look like this, if it doesn't look like your avatar, it's not good, right? I feel that's something that are not being discussed enough by brands and platform. It's something that myself and most probably everyone here, at least in the closed room right now, we're trying to still push so that the authenticity and engagement between the brand, platform, users are actually improving instead of suddenly the risk of us representing one way or the other, right? It would be exciting to see that evolving actually.
Okay, on the issue of the metaverse, I'm reminded of the Gartner hype cycle. Have you guys heard of that? Right, technologies all have a point in time where they are overhyped and then it comes crashing down before it reaches a plateau of productivity. I mean, same for anything that we've come across, including the internet, right? I mean, Amazon stocks crashed to a few dollars together with the rest of the stocks during the dot-com bubble burst. But it doesn't mean that Amazon is no good. It just came crashing down with the rest of the market, right? And what's left in the market after the dot-com bubble burst are the gems like Amazon that have then gone on to become the giants of the industry.
And by the way, AI, in terms of that hype cycle, it's in the hype phase, believe it or not. I mean, the number of people that have even heard of ChatGPT or use it on a regular basis is quite small. I mean, we think when we talk in our little bubbles about technology and this sort of stuff, oh yeah, everybody must be using AI. But if you talk to the regular person, that they're not using it. And then having the tangible use cases for AI, some companies are figuring it out, but there's still a lot of discovery. So it's still in the hype phase.
So there'll be a chance to buy NVIDIA stocks at some point, right? Okay, sorry, not financial advice, by the way. It's just a flippant comment.
I think you guys realize it's OpenAI and NVDA, right?
We don't give financial advice here, okay? So enough. But okay, we touched on the issue of data security. I mean, look, the greatest lie in the universe, right, is I have read and understand and agree to all the terms and conditions above, right? Come on, hundreds and pages of terms and conditions, and all of us just scroll through and just click the I agree, right? Without actually reading the terms and conditions. Now, on the issue of ethics, actually, I think that's an important topic in terms of artificial intelligence that is often neglected. And in terms of our industry, when we capture consumer data, skin color, skin type, age, gender, race, and what have you, what are the things to look out for in terms of ethics in the application of AI, actually, for beauty brands, and any things you've come across that you want to share?
I think as it relates to communication and transparency of when brands or companies in general, I guess, are using AI, I think might be Meta, where if you do a post on Facebook, they give you an option to check off if the photo was generated by AI, so that you're not misleading people to think that this is a real image, because the generative AI image creation now is becoming so photorealistic that people are starting to be deceived by these. So I think if beauty brands are using AI in the creation of their different forms of collateral media, I think that's one way that they can be more transparent to, communicate that with their consumers.
I mean, I think privacy, of course, is a big concern. I often think back about when you feed information into such models. I mean, they are mostly PII information. How do you actually anonymize such information? I think last year we know of a big beauty company who got into a data breach and was fined heavily. So like, how do you protect the information you have, use it, I think, for just the intended use, and explain it to the end consumer? I think it's a challenge for brands to be able to actually articulate that. Donald?
I think both the brand and platform mentioned earlier, right? There's that risk of biasness, that there's risk of lack of transparency. Meta doing that, right? I think TikTok is also following suit, doing similar stuff. I think it's very, very important to do that, because most people see something and they immediately say that's just normal content, but it's artificially altered content, right? And sometimes when it became so good, you don't know whether that's real or not. And imagine we are in the beauty industry where maybe you will see someone looking at fantastic, perfect skin, right? The pigment is like completely flawless, everything is great, but it doesn't exist in real life, right? But we are making the user aim for something that doesn't actually exist. So actually, platforms starting from beginning to do that, and the brands being very, very disciplined in making sure that their marketing team, their content, their agency are adhering to this rule is a must-have, right? Otherwise, I think we're going to a place where everyone is on their social media and they want to be someone else, and it moved to they want to be completely an artificial creature, right? I think that won't be fun, right? So that's why I think everyone in this room, all of us here in the platform, I think it is our responsibility, and most probably we're already doing that, and hopefully we can really voice that out publicly more.
Yeah, because regulations will always lag behind industry, especially digital technology. The governments won't be able to keep in step, right? To look after consumer interests, so we have to do a bit of that ourselves. We have a question from the floor.
Yeah, good morning. Great sessions, great answers and all. So this is regarding one of the answers, like having better visuals, so that image sensing, so that it can accurately predict what your skin type is. So my question here is, how far are we from that sort of technology? Because even now there are some concerns regarding your hydration level, which is particularly seen when you touch it, when you feel it, and that's done through tangible experiences. Are we yet ready to have such technology? How far are we? Or can we completely remove that touch experience and just completely rely on AI and image sensing to give the results?
Are you referring to just skin analysis, or actually more than that?
More than that, yes.
Okay. I think we touched on this before.
Yeah, I think that hot AI, right? I got lucky a few months, actually late last year, having the demo of that. To be fair, right? I don't know enough about even my own skin condition, right? So I think the challenge is the technology ready? It is there. But I think like in AI or machine learning, deep learning, there's always one thing about hallucination, right? Sometimes it looks very convincing, but it's completely wrong, right? Or even a false positive. So I think that's also the part where the education and brands, platform, we really need to educate ourselves, not also to take a system telling us an insight, right? And instead actually start filtering and understanding whether that's actually accurate. And also the TNC, yes, as much as none of us read the 100 pages, I think I know how they actually added that pop-up where, some of this you need to have your own self-precaution. Please contact us, please check. So I think that's something where one of the many that's already trying it out. But the same way as the virtual try-on, it's been in the market 10 years, right? It's still not perfect, right? Sometimes you put it on, you look like Panda or something, right? And it's just like a glitch. But I think we are heading there, right? And the big question would be, who can access it, right? As mentioned, they are a B2B company. They will prioritize like the bigger brands, right? Can all of us here, for example, the small, medium businesses, access that, right? Can the user be very much informed to actually not only use the technology, but have a very tangible value from it, right? Then that will reach to then the business side of it. Can we actually calculate the value for all this technology? Because I think the figure, I'm not sure, Rob, if you have this, nobody actually can confidently say what is the uplift of virtual try-on, right? It seems cool, but what is the uplift on revenue, right? So
I think if I were to add on, I think it's also important for consumers to understand maybe a reality. I mean, I am a R&D by background, so I'm quite skeptical on, let's say, improvements, because I think consumers often want to see benefits. But at the end of the day, it is skincare you are applying. So, of course, if you're going to compare skincare benefits versus benefits from, say, your out therapy or your thermage, you are not going to see that kind of improvement. But I think if you want to see, say, slight improvements with like hydration and things like that, I think as Donald mentioned, technology is there, that there is some space for personalization. But whether these improvements are consumer noticeable, I think it's still a bit of space for brands to explore in that area.
just to add on that hydration, actually I was told the result, right, on the skin color, let's assume product A and product B, and they said this is the result. They had a caveat after the test. They're like, by the way, they're like, this is not a joke. If you end up drinking the next 1 month while you use this, then it will actually be very different, because drinking is the opposite of hydration, right? So there was a very candid comment from them, but actually that could just be added into like a pop-up, for example, right? Become a reminder, buyers beware, basically, right?
I just have a follow-up on this. Yeah, hallucination is something probably we haven't actually been able to like overcome yet. Even you put a simple question, you change a parameter, it changes. Just to go back, I'm sure you must be all aware about it, about L'Oreal Perso. I think it's still not in the market because they are still struggling in how to adjust or fine-tune the parameters, and also the concerns that's coming along with ethics and how they use, because they use millions of data from people across the world in talking about or bringing in the changes of the level of personalization. With Perso, it's there, it's almost there, but still they haven't been able to like put on these parameters. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that point up. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I think there's a lot more to be discussed, to be honest. Can I suggest that we take it after the session, actually, because we have overrun the session. So to my fellow panelists, I thank you for your time, and for the audience, thanks for coming by today and for joining us in this session. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the moderator of this section, Mr. Lim, to moderate this section. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our first section, leveraging AI and smart technology for the beauty industry. We take a break in short moments, and we are going to start at 12 a.m. So it's very short. I think it's around no more than 10 minutes. So next section is shaping the future of cosmetic, exploring ingredients, biotech and AI innovations and sustainable practices, moderated by EcoCert Cosmos. So if you like to listen to this amazing topic as well, see you again at 12 a.m. Thank you.